Hey guys, Coach here. Welcome to this week's episode. Hey, right out of the gate, I'd like to thank our sponsor of this week's video, Gardenreet Lighting. We're going to be covering lighting again, but in a different fashion as a few weeks ago. And if you'd like to take a look at that installation that we did in the backyard, Maestro put a card up right here where you can take a look at it. But this week, we're talking about the effect of the light, not necessarily the fixture. We're talking about well lights this week, well lights that are actually mounted at ground level and basically show the light only, not a lot of the fixture. This week, Gardenreet provided these products, and what I'd like to do is show you the difference between a well light versus an accent light. These particular ones right here, the ones that I asked for when they reached out to us, I wanted the ability of the bulb inside the well itself to be able to angle and move. Now they do have two other ones. I'll put one over here and I'll put the other one over here. Some of them are louvered and some of them are made to shine directly across patios or walkways or in a walkway. This particular one is going to be highlighting the dormant birch trees that you see out behind me right now, and I'm going to be syncing them at ground level and connecting them up to wire, and then being able to enjoy them at nighttime with a little bit of uplighting. These things are, I would say, of all the lighting fixtures that I've had to deal with over the years, these guys rank right up near the top. They really are. Solid brass top construction, heavy duty composite bottoms so that it will resist rusting, a very, very good silicone rubber seal to prevent any sort of moisture intrusion, a good glass lens on top, not plastic that's going to yellow over time, but a glass lens that you can keep clean. And I'll suggest to you right off the gate, if you're putting it this at ground level and you have a sprinkler system that's going over it with hard water, really suggest that you put kind of a Rain-X or a wax across the top of it so it doesn't get dulled over time from water spot and stuff. But this is going to be put at ground level. It comes with a very good heavy duty encased ground rated type of cord, and you're going to be using an LED bulb that is equivalent to like 25 watts, which is pretty good. But it's only about 3 watts, maybe 5 watts of power. So when you're putting a system like this together, remember when you look at the package, don't go with what the replacement bulb number is up on the top of the package. Remember the wattage of each bulb. And then you can add those together on each line to come up with how much you can put on a system. In this particular case, Gardenreet provided the transformer, a 150 watt transformer. And the reason I asked for that is as we expand our relationship with Gardenreet, I want the ability of the transformer to accommodate other lights around Brook and Pond here as needed. So, what came with this particular package? You have the fixture itself, the cordage, the bulb, and the ground rated grease-filled connectors. So what tools might you need for a small project like this one? Well, obviously the fixtures and the bulb, but then you're looking at wire strippers and wire cutters. You're looking at the small screwdriver that they provide that you can use for the transformer, as well as the nuts on top or the bolts on top. You'll need some wire nuts if you don't have enough, especially for the wire connections. If you're branching off, you want to have something like a dry-con type of connection. A regular screwdriver. In this particular case, I'm going to be using an impact driver to take the bolts out just for speed purposes, and maybe some gloves. I'm sparing you for the sake of time and length of the video of the trenching. You'll have a little bit of B-roll to see what it took to put the cabling in. When I put in the long cable, The ground had frozen. It is thawed again now, typical fall here in Maine, but I had to use a jackhammer to get across the driveway and get the 12-2 cable. Remember to use 12-2 cable or 16-2 or 14-2 cable when you're dealing with LEDs. You don't need a big landscape lighting cable to accomplish this task. Without further ado, let's get these 3 lights installed, and then we'll show you some effects of it later on this evening when it gets dark, which now is about 4:10 in the afternoon. Welcome to northern Maine. All right, let's get going. One of the things about wiring up lighting, that is, always consider whether this is a finished system when you're putting them in or an unfinished system. If it is a finished system, then you can have your main feeder line coming into the light, and you're going to wire up those 4 leads together. If it is not a finished system, always consider putting in another pigtail or sweeping it up. If it's in a trench, sweeping it up and having the continuance of the wire going off to an area that maybe you're going to wire up a few more fixtures or whatever. In this particular case, I'm doing just that. I'm not going to finish it with just this well light. The wires are going to be run underneath the boulder, and there's probably going to be a path light at the other end next year. So instead of having to unwire everything here and then continue it, I'm going to go ahead and leave myself a 4-foot pigtail that I will put across the bed later on next year. So for wiring it up, this is a little bit of review from a few weeks ago, but you're going to use your main wire that's coming in, the pigtail if you're using it, and 1 leg of the fixture wire as one of your wires, one of your connection points. Then the other 3 or other 2 are going to be your other ones. When you're putting on the wire nuts and making those connections, make sure that you screw that wire nut all the way down till you feel almost a stopping amount of resistance, and then do a little bit of a tug test on it to make sure they're firmly seated. There are quality landscape lighting connectors, and then there's good ones. And what you want is you want it grease filled, and you want the ability for 2 or 3 wires to go into it, and it's a nice tight fit. You don't want it loose. The other thing is oftentimes, like what Gardenreet provides, a lighting supplier will give you a length of cord. There's 2 approaches to it. If you know this is a finished system, you can cut the cord down to whatever size is convenient for you. I prefer to leave the twist tie on it, and I prefer to bury this all. And why is that? For the ability to move later on. If this tree gets, the Parkland pillars here, they're not going to get very big. They're going to get 3 to 4 feet wide and probably 40 feet tall. But I might want to later on move it out further where the canopy is out here rather than up against the trunk. And having that extra cordage gives me that ability. I don't have to add wire. I can just take the twist tie off, dig a small trench a little further out, and let the cord do its job. Just a little hint. The other thing is I'm not going to put the bulb in just yet. If I'm putting the bulb in, then I have to adjust the well light to wherever it's going to work. I would prefer to get the well light in buried properly without any sort of cord strain, get it all firmly, and then I'll come in and I'll take the bolts out, remove the lens and the silicone seal, and then put the bulb in then. So at the end of the installation process, what I do not do is I don't do a formal burying and finishing of the thing until I've hooked it up at the transformer and I've energized the system to make sure everything is working correctly. Then at the end, I'll come back and I'll fine tune everything and make it look all finished and pretty. One of the things I like about Gardenreet products is they do package things up pretty darn nice, especially when it comes to these well lights. Everything is plastic encased so that there's no damage, no scratching in transport or whatever. And then they do provide the connectors and they provide the bulb, which is, with LEDs, that's a good cost savings. But I particularly like the quality. The quality of these Gardenreet lights looks like something that you can invest in and would last you easily 10, 15, 20 years with proper maintenance. Just remember to take care of that top. The rest of it will be all buried. Remember the pigtail. If you're going to extend the system, remember to put another leg in. You can always bury it and keep it out of sight, but put another leg in so that it's already ready to go for you when you're ready to expand. Another thing I really like about the Gardenreet products is like the secure bolts for the top of the fixture, stainless steel. Not a composite plastic, not a regular metal, but stainless steel, which is really going to minimize rusting over time and also stand up to cold weather, and they just look a lot nicer too. Nice touch. One thing that if you're looking for well lights, and I hope after watching this video, maybe you'll just go to Gardenreet and take a look at it, because we do have a 15% off. If you use YCC24 code, you'll get 15% off any light purchase that you make. But the size of this silicone rubber gasket, it's not a little thin, super crepey looking thing. This is beefy. This is something that's going to last for many, many years, worry-free care. And I'm very impressed with the size of this gasket. Also the weight and the brass consistency of the top, no rust, no water intrusion, and glass, not plastic. Let's get this bulb taken care of. So one of the nice things about the well lights that Gardenreet provides, at least this particular model, is it has a pivoting carriage inside the well itself, so that you can tilt it and angle it in two directions or straight up and down. In this particular case, we're going to go straight up and down and shine up the top of the tree. It also has a very good firm caliper that's going to hold the bulb in place. You just have to thread it in there gently. You cannot be a bull putting this thing in. It is a pin connector, so you have to put the pins down in the receptacle, realign the seal and the lid, and put your stainless steel screws back in. LED bulbs are fantastic as far as longevity. A normal incandescent bulb, usually about 1,500 hours. These guys, probably 5,000 to 7,000 hours, provided that everything is working correctly. So yes, the LED costs a little bit more up front, but not in the long run because they last so long. With a silicone gasket seal, you don't need to wrench it down super tight. Firm, and then just a slight bulge of the seal is all you need. And you'll see it when you tighten it down. You'll see the slight bulge as you're tightening it. I'm really interested to see what this looks like with a little bit of snow cover over it. Okay, if you remember a couple weeks ago, it's probably been about 5 weeks or so now, maybe even 6, when we put the lights in the backyard. We had accent lights. Accent lights do basically the same thing, except for they are exposed and the fixture is visible, which is part of the decoration. In this case, the well light, all we're looking for is the effect of the fixture, not the fixture itself. So tonight, when we turn them on and we have all the mulch and everything all decorated around it, you'll see the light, you'll see the source, but not the fixture. So let's go over to the transformer, hook up that transformer, test the lights and make sure everything's working, and then we'll do a final cleanup. So at the power center, just like before, we've mounted the transformer on the wall. We have a mechanical timer like your Christmas light tree timers, your Christmas light timers, and then we have the power lugs down below. And what we have is the common, and then 12, 13, 14, and 15 volt. Why do we have that again? Depending on the distance and run and potential voltage drop, we need to have a certain amount of energy that leaves the transformer center and gets to the final end of the last light. Normally, depending on the size of the wire that you're using, this particular wire is 16.2. I normally use 12.2, but this is more than enough adequate for the 3 that we're doing and then some. For LEDs, if this was incandescent lights, I would bump this up to 12.2 in a heartbeat. But you can see it's mounted up about 3 feet above the ground, which is going to allow for rain and snow not to accumulate around it. I have a protection conduit, a Schedule 80 gray conduit that covers the wire going from the ground below the gravel up to where the UV would be exposing it, and then through and into the transformer. I have a conduit lock nut on this, which I will tighten more when I get it all done down here. But now we don't have black wire going up and down the wall. We have just this, just the conduit. And we'll split this down now and get this one leg of 3 lights all in. We're going to take about 3/4 of an inch off, twist down that wire, and with the screwdriver that Gardenreet provides, we're going to loosen up those lugs put a little bit of an elbow in it. And we're going to take it off the 13-volt. When you get your wire attachments into the lugs and you've tightened them down and you've felt them go snug and secure, give it just a little bit of a tug test. So your on-off switch is up in the upper left. This is a photocell. If you decide to get a photocell plug and put it on the outside, that way the photocell will determine when it comes on and when it comes off. I think running it that long all the time is a personal choice. I would probably not do it, but it does make it convenient and you don't have to deal with the timer. It just comes on in the evening when it gets dark, and it goes off when it gets light. So let's turn it on, make sure we don't have any shorts. Transformer stays on at the switch. I've done my tug test. Let's see if the lights are working. Well, you know, one thing to keep in mind when you're dealing with these brass tops is remember that brass is a very soft metal. So when you're using the screwdriver or a drill driver to undo the bolts, anything, it's really easy to scratch the finish. So be careful. A little bit of a wax touch at the very end, and then the first night that you put it in, you can come back through, and while the ground is still soft, you can adjust the well until everything firms up around it. Another thing you might want to consider is always have your well, at least the glass and the top part of it, slanted ever so slightly, maybe a 1-degree pitch. That way, after you've applied a little wax and stuff and you've protected it for the season, that way when water and other stuff, sprinklers, etc., it'll have a much better chance of just sliding right off, and it won't sit there and start to cake up. At least sprinkler, hard water. Rainwater, you can always come through and, you know, use a little bit of CLR or something and take care of it. But if you wax this 4 times a year, yeah, you'll be fine. It'll slough right off. Guys, that's what I have for you this week. Well lights versus accent lights versus path lights. Thanks again to our sponsor, Gardenreet Products. We'll put a link in the description below. 15% if you use the purchase code YCC24. And I hope you enjoy your landscape project. If you have any questions regarding this landscape project that you're doing, you can always reach me at email youryardcoach@gmail.com. And please visit the website, especially if you have somebody in your circle of influence that maybe you're purchasing holiday gifts for, and you know that they don't have a lot of landscape experience and a project is upcoming for them next year. Maybe the book or the course might be a perfect gift for them. Thanks for taking a few minutes. If you've lasted this long, I hope I've earned a subscription from you and also a thumbs up and a like. I'll catch you guys next week. As always, to your landscape success, bye for now.